What is self-worth? Self-worth is the opinion you have about yourself. A good example would be that you think you're a good person who deserves good things, or vice versa, a bad person who deserves bad things. Self-worth is the same thing as self-esteem, or in other words, self-respect. I was 11 when I first started realizing that not everything was rainbows and unicorns. I started to change the stores I shopped at so that I could fit in or be more trendy. Of course, the phase I went through was super normal because, of course, I couldn't be walking around in a flip sequin t-shirt while everyone else was wearing crop sweatshirts. I then realized that getting accepted by everyone was hard. It wasn't easy. The amount of pressure that was on me was too much. So I sat down and I told myself that even if I wasn't shopping at that one trendy store, or even if I didn't have that one trendy shirt that everyone else did, I was good enough, and if I didn't have those, that wouldn't make me less worthy. Now let's think of Mr. Zucchili. Let's say Mr. Zucchili is a timid and calm guy who likes to have everything under control. And let's say he's super confident. Now, self-esteem should not be mistaken with self-confidence. Self-esteem is the opinion you have about yourself, while self-confidence is the opinion you have about your own qualities and your own abilities. A person may have a high self-esteem, but that same person may lack confidence, or vice versa. A person may have a low self-esteem, but have lots of confidence. In fact, if a person has a lot of confidence, then they can hide their low self-esteem pretty well. Mr. Zucchili was pretty confident, but he didn't have that much self-esteem. Now, what could Mr. Zucchili do to improve and increase his self-worth? Well, he needed to learn to accept compliments. He needed to learn to eliminate self-criticism, and he needed to learn to love himself. But how could he do all that? Well, keeping calm. When we're calm, we have the right mindset to think of the things that are making us self-criticize. Or go on walks. When we take walks, our mind and our body calm down so we don't think of the unwanted things that the human brain is usually busy with. Now that Mr. Zucchili knew all that, how would that help him with his social life? Well, the more we respect ourselves, the more we'll be respected. The lower self-esteem you have, the lower people will accept you. Now, Mr. Zucchili wanted to get a new wallet. He told himself, am I good enough to deserve a new wallet? Now, the answer to this question wouldn't end in him feeling good about himself. He'd either feel good or bad. If he said yes, he'd think that he had done enough work to deserve a new wallet and it's perfectly fine. But on the other hand, what if he said no? If he said no, that means that he thought that he hadn't done enough work to deserve a new wallet. And that does not mean that he doesn't know his worth. Surprisingly, it means that he knows exactly how much he should value himself. Now, Mr. Zucchili could say no, and if he said no, that did not mean that he wasn't good enough. That would be perfectly fine. And that is exactly how having self-worth is actually defined. Now, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. This quote sounds pretty self-explanatory, but let's think about it. What is it really trying to tell us? Your value does not decrease only because someone just cannot see your worth. So if Mr. Zucchili thinks that he deserves a new wallet, then he does. You are the person who defines your value, so don't let anyone else define it for you. Thank you.